Hi everyone, welcome to the show. The first piece of information comes from a Twitter space, and I caught Mike Novogratz talking about XRP and ripples, and what he has to say.
As much as people think I don't like XRP, I'm cheering for Ripple to win that case. Be loud and clear, I want them to win. But I worry about that one because if we lose that, people are going to think, oh, we're going to lose all the cases. And I think you got to be very careful that each one of these things is taken separately, and you read the fine print of the ruling. Anyway, I've been talking too long. I'll shut up.
He's been talking too long. He'll shut up. So you usually say that when you have said too much and you're trying to stop yourself from giving out more secrets. Now, what this reminds me of is Charles Hoskinson from Cardano telling everybody that he heard a rumor of what's going on and it's catastrophic for the rest of crypto. So it sounded like Ripple and the SEC have some type of settlement and it's bad for the rest of crypto because they don't get clarity. And this is kind of what Mike Novogratz is saying. He's saying that you have to be careful. You have to read the fine print. Don't overreact. Just read the fine print between every single case. And then he tells himself to shut up and he stops talking about it. So to me, Mike Novogratz also heard the same thing that Charles Hoskinson says, and there is some type of judgment that's coming out that's coming from a settlement from the SEC and Ripple. Now keep in mind that these VCs, Mike Novogratz said that he holds equity in Ripple, but the XRP he's anti, right? A lot of these VCs will say they're anti-XRP because they're holding other competing coins. Now, Joel Katz has said they're not going to discount XRP, and that's how VCs work. They try to get an 80% discount off of the coin, and they hold a bunch of them that are locked up, but they try to get it dirt cheap. And they give liquidity, and they get dirt cheap tokens in exchange. So a lot of these VCs were denied by Ripple to get XRP at a discount, while other coins are getting at a discount. So that's why they don't have a problem with the other coins. So Ripple released this PDF that talked about the MENA region, the Middle East and North African region. Now, what I found particularly interesting about this document is it talks about SAMA, which we all know is a RippleNet partner, as well as the UAE, which is an unknown. The UAE was leaked by Brad Garlinghouse at a bar in Davos that I actually found a recording of. I'll put in the link in the description, but he says that the UAE is also a customer, but that's never been officially announced. So the Saudi Arabia's central bank, in partnership with the UAE, worked on a joint one-year central bank digital currency pilot. So if SAM is using RippleNet and they're partnered with the UAE for the CBDC project, I would think it's safe to presume that they're also using Ripple technology. Now, this document also talks about their forward-looking in the MENA region, so that's why Ripple set up a hub in Dubai as well as a headquarters in Dubai, and they talk about customers like Qatar National Bank and Ali Ansara Exchange. So they're very positive in this whole entire area. Now, you may remember from the last video that I talked about the whole religious element of this. Debt as well as interest is forbidden there in the religion. So kind of interesting to see the Middle East move forward. Also, that's a very wealthy area, right? Is wherever the oil is. There's usually a lot of wealth, and that's Kevin O'Leary's argument for cryptos. Once those sovereign wealth funds come into crypto, that's going to change prices. QNB, so this is a RippleNet partner. You can see on their website, you can move money with RippleNet, and it gives you QNB Qatar in Turkish lira, US dollar, euros, Great British pounds. So think about this. If you're a correspondent bank and you have 160 currencies, one of them being Turkish lira, you have loans in Turkish lira, you have all this crazy stuff in Turkish lira, and then all of a sudden Turkish lira hyperinflates, what did that do to your bottom line? These correspondents are going to get wrecked with high interest rates, with currencies devaluing. This is a recipe for correspondents to take huge hits. Now, the beauty of ODL, RippleNet, you don't have to hold on to all these currencies. You just make an exchange and it flows through the XRP rails. Now, The other thing is Roland Berger. So on this PDF, on top, you see Roland Berger. Roland Berger is a spin-off of Boston Consulting Group. So one of the employees made their own consulting group called Roland Berger. Now you remember from my Bain video that consulting group is massive. This one is also pretty large. There's $670 million in revenue and 2,400 employees. So they own Deutsche Bank, and they've been pretty big in this space. So that's this one pager. Now, you usually give one pagers to potential customers or investors, right? This one looks like it's more towards potential customers, especially in the UAE area, the MENA area. So very interesting to see this. Now, the next piece of information comes from this tweet. It shows FedNow, Volante, RippleNet, Swift. Now, if you're unaware, FedNow just is launching. FedNow is kind of like FedWire. But it's real time. So FedNow is just real time, 24/7, 365 days a year. While FedNow is only 9 to 5. It was pretty slow, but it was essentially just the Fed's ledger. So you were able to move money from bank to bank between domestic banks, right? This person is showing Volante being a RippleNet integrator. So Volante is a payments processor. They're integrated into a lot of banking technology. A lot of banks will be Volante customers, and Volante has a software package with RippleNet included in the software package. Now, Volante was on the Faster Payments Task Force. They are partnered with Ripple. They do have a say in the domestic payment infrastructure, right? So a while back, I asked Volante's Twitter handle, when will Volante utilize XRP in 2020, the year for XRP? And the response was, with Ripple just having joined the ISO 222 Standardization Committee, it sure does look good for XRP for 2020. Well, obviously that was wrong, but I think it's pretty funny that they actually answered me. We know their alignment with Ripple. We know that they've, just him the person behind this Twitter account talking about XRP and being aware of XRP is pretty interesting to me. So Rathik Kahneman connects Volante partner with Indian tech company HCL Tech. We see India setting up for the digital rupee. We see this modernization of the payment infrastructure in India, while Volante had a say in FedNow. They were one of the Faster Payments Committee. They were on the boards to make FedNow possible. They gave a lot of input on how it was designed. They are a RippleNet partner integrator, but they're also spread out across the globe. They're used by different banks. Different banks use Volante technology, and that's what Rathik Kahneman is going through, is just different ways this was set up, and just pointing out that they probably are with the Indian tech HCL to deploy solutions for instant payments, RTGS, real-time gross settlement, and multiple high and low functionality. So, just between India and the U.S., right, that's probably a vast amount of money that goes through. So Saudi Arabia is buying Russian oil at record levels and laundering it into Europe markets to evade U.S. sanctions. So the rest of the world, there's this trend to move away from the dollar banking system, to move away from the U.S. role under the banking system, and the rest of the world is trying to avoid this, and they're trying to set up like BRICS nations are trying to set up settlement and settlement systems that don't rely on U.S. dollars, trying to get around this completely. Now, I will say it's kind of odd to see everybody and their mother talking about the end of the dollar and how BRICS nations are going to overthrow it, but at the same time, I don't think it's likely that the dollar gets overthrown in the short term, but I think it's extremely likely in the middle to long term, because this is how it's always happened. Reserve currencies always come to an end surrounding these conditions. Usually a reserve currency lasts for 30 plus years. It's been over 30 years with the US dollars, and now you're starting to see the crack lines start to widen. And what surrounds this is high debt to GDP. That's what we're having in the U.S. right now. And you have geopolitical tensions, civil unrest. All of these things are factors when a reserve currency goes away and a new one emerges. So I just don't think a new reserve currency is going to be tied to a country. I think the whole CBDC crypto type of paradigm is going to replace that. The innovation that crypto has to offer is going to allow value to be transferred with any other form of value. You'll be able to convert any value for any value. There's no need for a reserve currency in that type of system. Now, what was funny is the New York Times posted about 34 operations known as Bitcoin mines in the US, all which are putting immense pressure on the power grid and creating costs for everyone around them, most of whom have nothing to do with Bitcoin. The Riot Platforms tweets this video out. Listen to this.
Mining rigs are not emitting any CO2. If the number goes down, that would be interesting as well. So let's find out. This is where the science happens. This is the largest Bitcoin mining facility in the United States. Outside, we were at 455 parts per million of CO2. Inside, we're at 428 parts per million of CO2. So CO2 levels actually decreased a little bit by entering this Bitcoin mining facility. That might just be a measurement error. But in any case,
so he measures the emissions outside and then goes inside the Bitcoin mining warehouse and measures it inside of there. So these miners just plug into electricity. They're not, gas powered or anything, but the actual power plant that's providing the electricity is not in the equation. So I found that rather humorous. Riot Platforms, if you don't know, is a publicly traded Bitcoin mining company. So the president of Egypt, one of America's closest allies in the Middle East and a major recipient of the U.S. aid, recently ordered subordinates to produce up to 40,000 rockets to be covertly shipped to Russia, according to leaked U.S. intelligence documents, right? So they're supplying Russia with rockets while we're supplying the Ukraine with other arms. So pretty odd situation, right? You've got Saudi Arabia taking Russian oil and putting it on the side of it, made in Saudi Arabia. You've got Egypt supplying rockets to Russia. Geopolitical tensions are at an all-time high, and this trend's going to continue. Not to mention, in the last video, I talked about China surrounding Taiwan. What crypto assets are neutral by design. You cannot, they're excellent mediums of exchanges. You cannot tamper with the ledger that easily. So with everything that's going on right now, it'd make a lot of sense. It'd make a lot of sense that neutral protocols are valued. So Sir Clown Sniper writes to David Schwartz and Brad Garlinghouse to stop publicly acknowledging Riddlers and their nonsense. Now, this guy came out with like 10 misconceptions about the XRP ledger and why Joel Katz should agree with him. And Joel Katz ultimately agreed that, XRP is not going to be backed by gold. XRP is not going to be worth $35,000 a coin. Basically giving into this stuff. To me, all the Riddler stuff is like, it's fun to listen to. And if you've been around in the community for as long as I have, there's been odd coincidences with the Riddlers. Now, I'm not saying every single Riddler is right or anything like that, but there has been these odd coincidences that make it fun and entertaining. Now, I don't make my investments off of Riddlers, but it is something that kind of piques my interest from time to time. I think there's an overreaction on both sides. I think some people get way too far into it, and then some people dismiss it as complete morons, and they start attacking everyone. And I don't think it warrants that type of response. David Schwartz has facts. Now, what did spark from all this is XRP's role with RippleNet, ODL, Interledger Protocol. So Ripple provides all this software to banks. They save a lot of money just as is. You don't have to use XRP, but if you do use XRP, then it gets even cheaper and even quicker. So you have a choice to flip the switch for yourself. For your bank, you get to flip your switch. If it makes sense for you to flip the switch, then you could save money and you can move money around quicker and faster, right? But ILP Interledger Protocol does not require XRP. RippleNet does not require XRP. Now, Ripple has positioned XRP as optimized for RippleNet for ILP. You can use XRP and it's going to work better than any other digital asset because they've designed it that way. So it's like a chess game, right? They position XRP and you just have to click a button to use it, and it saves you a lot of money and gives you a lot of efficiency. So that's the special sauce of RippleNet. There's a reason why he says that. Now, if you look at other crypto projects that force customers to use the crypto asset, you probably wouldn't have the big guys that Ripple has, right? Like MUFG, Bank of America. Those big banks probably would never have touched RippleNet, but now they're touching it already. If there's one time where they're allowed to use it by regulations, they already have the software set up. They just have to have the legal stuff to actually use it, but it's already in their systems now. So that was the whole whole strategy behind RippleNet and why XRP is not used for every single thing. You don't force customers to use your digital asset. You make it really easy for them to use it if they want to. So the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says Bitcoin gives the public an escape route from when the bubble burst. So both sides, right? So you have Democrat and Republican both talking about Bitcoin and anti-CBDC. Now, that's very interesting to me, right? Because this was not common knowledge. If you said CBDC 4 or 5 years ago, nobody knew what you're talking about. Now everybody knows what you're talking about. Everyone knows that the demise of the dollar is on the table. All this stuff is like common knowledge right now. So I don't think it's likely that the dollar goes away tomorrow. However, this political rhetoric is going to force the issue into the public eye and force regulations. This is how it's done, right? They keep pushing it and pushing it until eventually it gets done. And it's good that you have people that are proponents of crypto assets and anti-CBDC because that allows the private sector to innovate. If the central banks are not allowed to create their own CBDCs, then the private sector has to fill the gap. That's all the crypto assets, stable coins, tokenization, all those things come to life then. The president of France, Macron, says Europe must reduce its dependency on the U.S. So again, this trend of moving away from the U.S., moving away from U.S. dollars, continuing the trend of moving away. So this is the Central Bank of Uruguay. You could see right here, Ripple Services. Ripple's talked about it quite a few times. A while back, they announced that they were going to create their CBDC on the XRP ledger. This document just adds more confirmation to that. They're using MATI technology as well as Amazon Web Services. Now, this one under the radar, I didn't notice this, but the Commonwealth of Dominica is using True USD as legal tender. And what's interesting about this is we're hearing, the end of the dollar, we're hearing anti-CBDC, and the world is becoming dollarized through stable coins. So, the alternative to a CBDC is stable coins, and these smaller islands are using stable coins as national currencies. So, as hyperinflation happens in these smaller areas, that's where problems occur. So Warren Buffett is buying Japanese financial stocks, and we've seen him in the past position himself with Nubank. Nubank was a Brazilian bank that was involved with RippleNet. Now he's buying SBI banks, so banks that are invested in SBI or are shareholders of Ripple and R3. Warren Buffett's buying those financial institutions. So he's positioning himself around this type of crypto paradigm shift. And at the same time, Bank of America and Fidelity are doing the same thing, but with MicroStrategy. So instead of them buying Bitcoin, they're buying MicroStrategy equity. So on their balance sheet, they have MicroStrategy, but it's really a disguise because Michael Saylor has bought hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. So The Investor Advisory Committee wrote a letter to the U.S. SEC basically parroting what Chairman Gensler is saying. Number 5 is particularly funny. Oppose legislation that would create special exemptions to federal security laws for crypto assets that would undermine investor protection. So this Investor Advisory Committee wrote to the SEC pretty much patting the SEC on the back for the work they're already doing. Now, it looks like an employee from Coin One was arrested for taking crypto to list the crypto. So he took money to list a crypto asset on the Coin One exchange. Now, this is how it's done. Right now, that's every single crypto exchange. Well, most crypto exchanges, not every single one, but most crypto exchanges, they want a significant amount of money to list a crypto asset, and now this guy was arrested for that. So, it's kind of the status quo in crypto. You have to pay to get listed on an exchange, and a pretty decent amount of money. Now, the last but not least, the G20 countries aim to develop global framework against crypto-related risks. So the G20, the group of 20, the largest group, right, the largest economies, the largest 20 economies, are all getting together and saying that we want to set up a framework for rules regarding crypto. Now, the rest of the world isn't anti-crypto. They're anti-scams. They're anti some of the crazy stuff that we see in crypto, but they're pretty much pro-crypto, right? Because it allows things like tokenization and payments and all these things. It's just the U.S. SEC that has a stick up its butt, right? The rest of the world is kind of favorable towards crypto assets, and the rest of the world is setting up a framework on what we're going to allow, what we're not going to allow, probably stable coin regulations, the whole 9 yards. The largest group is setting that up. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. If you enjoy content like this, please consider joining my Patreon or my Ghost site, so dmjr.ghost.io. There's Stripe integration. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks, everyone.